All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people out there just like you and just like me. Today, we've got a special guest who I really think you're going to enjoy hearing from. His name is Christian Gratz. I got his album right here. He's got more than one, but this is his album 1981, which for me, between either 1980 or 1981, as far as music goes, that for me was the wheelhouse. Of course, where I lived, we had like 5 adult contemporary radio stations, and they're all trying to out AC each other. And I kind of latched on to the one that was playing a little bit more deeper variety and album cuts. And that's really where I started just loving on music, either 1980 or 81. But some people think 1981, there are people out there that believe 1981 was the greatest year for music ever. If you check out what was on the charts in 1981, it'll blow you away. The variety, the diversity, it's incredibly interesting. And my friend Christian Gratz joins us now to talk about his album 1981 and pretty much anything else. How are you, Christian?
I'm great, Dave. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is awesome, man. This is great.
How long have you been doing this stuff, man? How long have you been in this business?
I've been in the business since since the late 80s, since 1997. I've been playing out in bands, but I started recording about 3-4 years ago.
Right. And did you think to yourself, there aren't too many people doing this, and this is a lost art form, and I love this stuff, so I'm just going to embrace it and do it?
Well, what had happened was I started collecting records again, because when I was a kid, I lived for that. I lived for records. And there was a bunch of used record stores, and I rediscovered a lot of music that I had as a child. And I was like, this stuff is incredible. And at the time I was listening to jazz and funk, and really getting my skills together on the instruments. And I just rediscovered this incredibly tight, crafted, every part that these people were playing on these records it said something, and there was no wasted notes. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And the sounds of the instruments, the analog sounds of the instruments. This is before digital, like before the DX7 and the drum machines. 82, 83, they really took over. And it was just like, and you could hear like it wasn't perfect. Like there was still mistakes, little tiny mistakes in the music everywhere. But those little mistakes made me like, some of the mistakes that I heard were they made the song for me,
Right.
Like at the end of, like, for instance, one song, Pilot of the Airwaves by Charlie Dorr from 1980.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs of that. Listen to every instrument in that song. It's brilliant. It speaks. He plays one wrong note at the end of the song. He plays a D to a C sharp and the chord, the very last chord, right when he did the acapella. And when I was a kid, I heard that and it blew me away. I was like, oh my God, that's the greatest. Whatever he did there in the guitar compared to the rest of the song it was a beautiful sound to me. It was like a mistake. Yeah. So it was like stuff like that. And I remember that, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's just stuff like that, And so what happened was, I was like, oh, you know what? I want to record some of this stuff. Like I could do this. I could record this stuff. I mean, I got this music flowing through my veins. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I got the Doobie Brothers, Robbie Dupree, Christopher Cross. I've got all that stuff up in here. It's just waiting to come out. Like all the arrangement tools and the instrument sounds.
Yeah.
And so I just decided to do it.
Yeah.
That's all.
And what's the response been to this record? I mean, when I heard it, and as long, I got the Page 99 shirt on as well, which was kind of my first foray into this sort of underground or independent sort of, we call it yacht rock. I don't love that term, but I'm kind of embracing it because at least it gets some exposure because people will put you in a category. But what have the fans been saying about this?
They love it. I mean, there's a big rabid fan base, in different areas, Scandinavia, South America, Japan. Yeah. I got a record deal in Japan from the album. Actually, I had a 45 made up last year, and
That's awesome.
How cool is that? That's another dream come true right there. I've always wanted to have a little record contract, and to have a 45, which is my favorite medium, pressed up. It was just like, it's like, it's like a gift, Dave. It's like you can't just something simple like that just blows your mind, and it just like I got such a sense of pride, just because of that, and such a sense of like, wow, like maybe I'm doing something good. Maybe people really are feeling this stuff the way that we feel this stuff, because to me it's all about. I started doing this for myself, like a vanity project. It's not like, hey, look at me, I'm going to come out here and try to. I just thought, you know what, I love this and I want to make more of it. I love when I was a kid. Just like you, I grew up in middle America, pre MTV, we had 3 channels. If you were lucky, you had cable. This is like cable. We got cable in '79, and it was like we had 2 channels from New York, and that was it. That was the extra stuff, But as far as music, there were no stations that played. At the time, it was coming up, it was new wave, and AOR was not played. We had soft rock stations. So my thing is soft rock, really. I mean, a lot of my stuff on these albums, some of the stuff is yacht, but I just consider it blanket soft rock, really. With some maybe some disco influences and stuff, because that's how it was at the time. I wanted to make an album that was like a kind of a K-Tel album from back in the day.
I have one of those.
Do you know what I mean? Look up I believe it's called Images or Short Circuit or something like that, from 79, 80. That's exactly my premise. Like have a little like this disco influence on there, have a little, folk rock influence, have a little yacht rock, have a little, soft rock, like that kind of thing. Just like an album that you would like a K-Tel kind of a vibe.
No.
Where every production kind of sounds different. I mean, there's some on the album, it's not really consistent all the way through. There's like different, there's like little different genres, even though there's always the same usually the same instrument, Fender Rhodes going through there. And with chorus guitars and stuff like that, and some phase shifting, that kind of gives it some continuity,
I mean, one of the first record albums I got in my introductory shipment of albums from the Columbia Record and Tape Club back in, I want to say it was 80 or 81, was Middleman by Boz Scaggs.
Oh man,
JoJo was on the radio, and Breakdown Dead Ahead was on there, and I liked the rest of the album. The record label didn't like it as much as I did, but where I was, those 2 songs were beaten into the ground that summer, and I had to have that record. And on this album, I noticed here you got a little leg coming out here, and I remember my mother when she saw the full album, Middleman album cover. You know how Boz Scaggs is posed in that album, right? So she was like, what are you getting into? And I'm like, Mom, don't worry. I mean, there was, other kids are listening to Ozzy, and I'm listening to like Boz Scaggs, So she didn't make the connection because, she's a parent. So she's just probably worried that her son was, getting a little bit weird. But that album and albums like that. I mean, I hear, the whole Kiss on My List. The other day I was driving down the road and I heard Did It in a Minute. Christian Did It in a Minute. It's like one of the greatest Hall & Oates, the way it starts, the way it ends, the flow of the song. I mean, you kind of capture, I mean, I don't want to say it's like a spoof, but the way you do this, it's going to each song is going to kind of remind you of a song. If you're really paying attention, if you grew up with that kind of music, you go, oh yeah, I hear that. He's trying to do, so-and-so. And to me, that's awesome. It's like these people were, like you said at the beginning, they were the master craftsmen of this kind of music and music in general. I mean, you look at the work of Steve Lukather and people just say, oh, he's that guy that's in Toto. He's been on like more records than just about any human alive. And there's a reason for that, is because he can play anything, he could do anything, and he could sing. But he was just this, hey, we're gonna get Lukather on the record. And sure enough, you look at credits. This is the other great thing about albums. You look at all the album credits, and you're gonna find these names over and over again of these just amazing musicians that a lot of people, I don't want to say that a lot of people forgot about, but I think we're now, because me and you, maybe we're getting a little bit older, we're more nostalgic. And I don't know if that stuff doesn't resonate the same way. You've got these brand name bands that are still going strong out there, but a lot of people forget, like Pablo Cruz and Firefall and all of this sort of like organic, earthy, like you said, analog, to use a good word. I mean, there's so much of it, Christian. And what I love about this thing is you capture the spirit. You really do. It's 1981, and this was what was on the radio in 1981.
Yes, absolutely. Alongside like new wave, which started to break out, you had like Rick Springfield came out, and Pat Benatar, from that time, like I think that of course, MTV mid 81, but it still didn't hit middle America yet. MTV really, I always tell people this, the 80s were still the 70s up until about 1982.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For music.
Oh yeah, I mean Robbie Dupree, you mentioned. That those two songs were just everywhere. Again, the record label kind of gave up a little bit on some of these guys because they could see trends, right? They knew what was coming. So they like Bill LaBounty. Who knows Bill LaBounty in this room, right? So holy crap, that he deserves like 10 holy crap Batmans, because that one album, all right, Living It Up and all of that thing is mostly a masterpiece. And then he had some stuff prior to that, but he became more famous kind of like after the fact. Like Mark Jordan, it's another guy. Like I didn't know Mark Jordan. I remember seeing one of his albums when I went to college radio, and he had kind of flipped. He had gone more AOR sounding, a lot more heavy keyboards, but his stuff from the late 70s is just like, super artistic and smooth and melodic. And I think that's another thing, which I knew I was going to talk to. Melody seems to be a problem these days. Like if it's too melodic, people are like, well, that's kind of cheesy, because you can kind of sing that and you can hear all the words. And I don't know. I mean, it's like everything went kind of dark in the 90s, and everybody really forgot about how to write quality songs. And you don't have to make it loud, obnoxious, or if you make the same chord progressions all the time, it starts to give me a headache. You know what I mean? And it's not because I'm getting old. It's because when I was 16, like I said, this was my summer music. This was my in the car music. And I don't know. What do you think about the way music has kind of progressed?
Well, I think that what we're seeing today, especially, is this breakdown of the whole major label system, and everything's digital and everything is instant access. And the good thing for guys like me and you is, and all these other artists is, we could literally we could find an audience. We could find that audience that loves, Robbie Dupree, Bill LaBounty. We could find that audience again. There are groups on different websites, and you start talking to people and seeing what they like. And so you find those will be like your fans. Those will be the fans. Those are the people that are going to like, that love this, that are rabid for this music.
Right.
And like music in general, of course, popular music is a different ballgame. That it's geared towards. I think it's a lot of it's geared towards the young, the teenage, young adult market still. But they're really not going to listen to 99 by Toto, or Boz Scaggs. I mean, they're going to look at Boz Scaggs' album cover and go, "Oh my God, this looks like something my grandfather would listen to." You know what I mean? Now, it was just like, because Boz looks. I mean, his album. Look at how classy and sophisticated. It just oozes that essence. This music yacht rock, it oozes, it has that essence, you know. You think of like, you know, high-end LA,
Mhm.
elegance.
Right.
Um, it's kind of like, I always, yacht rock is like, it's like rock in a tuxedo,
Yeah.
you know, or rock in a black Chanel dress,
Yeah.
that,
No, true.
that's, to me, that's what it is, and I see like, remember in the 70s you had those disco album covers with the man and the woman,
Yeah.
and they're dressed up and they look really good. Well, that to me could be easily yacht rock, the whole
Yeah.
look,
Right.
That's what I
Yeah.
see when I, or somebody like Brooke Shields,
Right.
in the Calvin Klein ads.
Yeah.
Um, just and a lot of this music had a very it had certain elements to it, and that's the thing, the arrangement, the electric piano, the electric guitars, the kind of guitars they used. Steve Lukather had his own sound. He always had
Yeah.
that same fiery, piercing guitar sound, which is why he became such a hot commodity, because that was like the new thing. Like Jake, you had Larry Carlton in the mid
Yeah.
70s,
Oh yeah.
Lee Ritenour,
Yeah.
and they're fusiony and boppy, but with distortion on the guitar, so it really slicked every record up.
Right.
Then you look at there, who was the rock guy, who added rock into that, and a fiercer sound. So guys started using him, as a harder edge, as like the
Yeah.
wild card. Like Break Down Dead Ahead, that song, right?
Yeah.
Like if Jay Graydon played on that, or Carlton, that would have probably gotten played on like a soft rock station really easily. But since it was such a hard solo and a heavy sound,
Yeah.
I think a lot of programmers got turned off. That's the other thing too, the difference.
Yeah.
If you have like heavy guitar sounds, usually wouldn't get played on soft rock radio.
Right.
I know it was all like, if you were like we never really heard a lot of Toto on soft rock radio. We heard like 99,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you didn't hear like any of the harder stuff. You didn't hear Hold the Line.
No.
You
No.
you didn't hear da, 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 da. What's that song called?
Don't.
I'll Supply. You didn't hear I'll Supply the Love,
Oh, that's
but
great. Yeah. Great track. Yeah.
because they had heavy guitars in them, and I think that's an element that kind of, if we're speaking about getting on the radio and for programming, and soft rock, yacht rock,
Yeah.
versus like harder rock, it's the guitar tone, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, so, and as the age progressed, the guitars became a little heavier, and then I think yacht rock kind of, uh like a caterpillar, blossomed into AOR. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. That's true. That's
I
true. But
mean,
there was this real sweet spot, and it's sporadic in the 70s, because it actually, I think, goes back. People always say like 78 to 82. I would say it was sporadic throughout the 70s, even like 72, 73. You can find things that I think fit in that mold and are really cool to listen to, because again, you hear a real analog recording. You're hearing every pop and every click, and it's just, to me, again, like you, I kind of enjoy hearing some of the human frailties in music, the voice too, where now everything gets auto-tuned, and nobody can make a mistake. In those days, Boz Scaggs, you mentioned him a lot here. I mean, he had a real distinctive voice. I mean, you either really liked Boz or you're like, who's this guy? But it worked. It worked for the material that he did. And then you knew it was him right away. He wasn't just, hey, let's fix this, Boz. You sound, too raspy over here and too cranky and squeaky over there. And, and you're nasal over here. And okay, so, like my kids, they'll come to me, Dad, what's wrong with Steven Tyler? I'm like, nothing. That's the way he sounds, I mean, that's and that was the music, I'm going way off on a tangent here, but there were so many distinctive people in that era. And then you mentioned too, you're going back and looking at records, the whole yacht rock, you won't call it industry or genre, has blossomed because there's so much music that didn't hit the radio. A lot of these record labels would record one or two albums with an artist, and then, drop that artist, but yet if you go back through the archives and listen to some of this music, you're going to be like, hey, how come this wasn't on the radio? You know, how come this was not a hit? And there's only so much room. I mean, I used to do this for a living. I mean, you get bombarded. You know, we got this new single coming out, that new single coming out. You got to play commercials. You gotta back sell. You got to front sell. You got to, you know, do the weather report, whatever it is, news updates. And so, you know, in an hour, your little pie chart there, you fit like, you know, 12 songs, 15 songs. And then, you know, your boss is yelling at you because he doesn't know this new song you added. So it's like one of those where, okay, you know, the only song I'm going to add this week is this one or these two, you know. So a lot of stuff I think kind of flew under the radar. These labels too, sometimes they're A&R departments. When you look back, you're like, did anybody work these? Did anybody call anybody and say, hey, this might be something you want to put on your soft rock station? But hey, I guess it's why you talked about the groups that are out there. You go on Facebook, or you go on different places, Telegram, you probably find, you know, yacht rock fans who this one guy used to talk to me all the time when I first started doing this. He was an Italian guy and he had every Japanese import that you could imagine. Like he would say, Dave, you haven't heard it. He found an album that Gary Katz produced and he was telling me about it. And he's like, you got to listen to this. I mean, it's Steely Dan's guy, you know? And I'm like, wow. And so the dedication to this is far, you know, beyond what I can imagine. And that, I guess that's good because I think people are discovering older music they didn't hear. And then they're discovering stuff like this that they can add to that. And, you know, maybe there'll be a terrestrial radio station buyout someday. And some guy with deep pockets will say, hey, Christian, we're going to start playing your new album on our terrestrial radio station. To me, buddy, that would be better than you and I doing an interview. That would be 100 times better for you.
Yes, maybe someday. Who knows?
You know,
yeah, but I mean, yeah, you know, I think that, and I totally identify with what you just said. There was such a glut of product in the late 70s. I read about this. There was the biggest bust and boom in the record industry was in 1979.
Yeah.
And like you had Grease and Saturday Night Fever, which sold billions and billions of albums, right?
Right.
So record companies became overconfident and they started signing everybody. And like none of these records were going to be able to be sold. And couple that with back then, you remember, we had high gas, you know, and the energy crisis. So it was like, yeah. Come like the next year, 1979, nobody was buying anything, and they were counting on like all these major labels were counting on Tusk to you know, to get them back out of it. They were counting on the Long Run to get them out of it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like these were the big albums in
I remember
70, 80.
Yeah,
and the Cars, they were counting on you know, they were counting on these big albums to get them, you know, into the back into the black, you know, as opposed into the red, because nobody was buying records back then. All of a sudden it just stopped. And you know, so that's what I read. And then it didn't really pick up back until like the mid 80s sometime, 83, 84, you know, you started really picking up steam again. But yeah, I mean, like, and that's the thing, discovering all these records. This is the thing I discovered, like there's all this, you know, I love Minute by Minute by the Doobie Brothers, you know, but there's this other record that kind of sounds like it. It's great. Yeah. And it's like, how come nobody's ever heard of this guy? How come Bill Bounty? Who is this guy? How come nobody's ever heard of the song Living It Up? This is incredible. I mean, where did this come from? How come I never heard this? You know, how come I never heard like Pages? How come I never heard
Pages?
Do you know what I'm saying? Just like that. How come I never heard the Nielsen Pearson Band? You know?
Oh, killer.
I mean, we heard Ambrosia. They played Ambrosia like crazy on the radio.
They do.
And yeah, and you're right. Everybody's voice sounded different back then. If you notice, every lead singer had a different tone. You know, like Little River Band. Nobody could sound like Glenn Shorrock. Nobody could sound like the guy from Ambrosia. Nobody could sound like Michael McDonald. Nobody could sound like Christopher Cross. Nobody could sound, you know, and nobody could sound like Boz Scaggs. So you had Daryl Hall. I mean, these guys are like, you know, these guys are the best singers in the world.
Correct.
Some of the best. Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you hear them, you know, it's like, oh God, that's Ambrosia. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, David Pack, just again, a guy who's an absolute legend and nobody knows his name, and you can go down the list of a lot of those guys that you mentioned. So let's talk about you. And so are you working on anything to follow this up? You've also got an album called 1979, and people can imagine that album sounds a bit like 1979. So yeah, I've listened to that one too, but I got a physical copy of this, which I proudly display behind me here because I want people to see it and ask about it, and they do. And hopefully at least will generate some interest to either your website or just to stream it, or hopefully to download or order a copy of it. Are you working on any new material?
Yes, I have almost an album's worth of material done. And I'm not going to say what the title would be or the genre, but it's going to be the same kind of, the same wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I think this one's going to be a little bit more, there's going to be some really cool stuff on this. Some different, I've got some, Cliff Richardy kind of vibes going on. I got some cool. Christopher Cross. I've got some Steely Dan. Yeah. I've got some Linda Ronstadt type of things. Right. So it's going to be that kind of, still more of the same era.
Hey, and we definitely need more of this. And I think there are internet radio stations out there. I just found one that's based out of Miami, and I didn't know it existed. And I tuned into it, and they had, I think John Nixon from Page 99 had a liner on there talking about his band and stuff, and I was intrigued. And they were playing. It was like the big kitchen sink, like they were just throwing it all in there. And I'm saying that I live on the west coast of Florida, and I always think to myself, if I had money, get a terrestrial radio station, down on the beach somewhere and blast this music out there so people they could literally go out on their boat, right? Doesn't have to be a yacht, but okay. And this could be the format, riding around their car. And there are a lot of people of a certain age. Like I always say, if I go to the desert island and I'm stranded, I don't want to bring a bunch of music that's going to make my ears bleed the whole time I'm there. I'm going to want to hear a guy like Christian Gratz, who's a finesse player, who's going to be able to, play those electric pianos and play those little guitar solos. He's trying to be whoever, I think I heard one of your solos, and I said, and I couldn't think of the guy who it reminded me of. It might have been a Steely Dan, might have been like a Skunk Baxter move or something, but I was still just very, very happy listening to it. So it's good you got new material. Do you have any time frame, or I'm not that, I'm sure you're just taking your time doing what you want to do.
Probably by the fall.
Okay.
If not by January. Yeah, I've got a lot of things. I have a duo with my girlfriend called the Frost Duo, and it's like we do jazz, smooth jazz, and things like that, like old school 70s smooth jazz kind of stuff,
Yeah.
So we're working on putting an EP together for this summer. So I got 2 projects going on, and some I'm trying to get some collaborations together, with some other guys out there.
Yeah. It's
hopefully Page 99. Me and Page 99 did one last summer. We did a little tune, and that was great, man. That was like that turned out so good. It has the total yacht rock, boom, right in the wheel, right in the boathouse vibe,
right in the boathouse.
Yeah, right in the boathouse.
I told you should have wore that. We both should have wore the captain's hats. That's how we should have done this. There you go. The song is called "Stay the Night," right?
Stay the Night. Yeah, I've got my shirt on with the flamingos. See that?
Yeah, I got it. The Christopher Cross albums. Yeah, that's great. This is so cool. Stay the Night. It's not the Chicago or the Ben Orr Stay the Night. This is the original song, and it's really good. It's really good. You got to check it out. So, and you play out live, from what I understand. You take this duo out and do. Where do you? I don't want to you don't have to pinpoint your address, but what part of the country are you in?
The Northeast United States.
So we might see you somewhere in the northeastern part, and you go as the Frost. What do you call it? Frost Duo?
Yeah.
That's cool. And it's you and your girlfriend, and she obviously she sings, and does she play instruments as well, and she part
Yeah.
of the band?
Yes, she actually, she comes up with the songs, most of the songs.
Oh wow.
And yeah, her name is Leah Beth Evans. She's got an incredible voice. Oh my God, incredible voice, beautiful songwriter.
Yeah.
It's just like, her and I putting these songs together, it takes 5 minutes. Like
Wow.
she'll come up, yeah, she'll sing me this melody, or even just she might say, I have this melody here. She'll start playing something, and I'll just come up with the whole thing, and it's like, there it is. Okay, let's go and record it next week. And
That's awesome.
so it's real simple, and
Mhm.
it's um we have a nice fan base for that too. It's we just won the Central PA Musicians Hall of Fame Jazz Award this few weeks ago, down one of my favorite places on earth, Hershey, Chocolate World, USA.
Yeah. Been
So
there.
that was,
Yeah.
you like it?
It's good. Good. It's a fun town. There's a lot to do. People will be surprised at how much chocolate you can consume in one day. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So Christian, you got a website, right? Tell us about your website.
It's a Christian Gratz official at Weebly.com.
At what was the last part?
Weebly.
Weebly.
Yeah.
All right. So Christian Gratz, and I still messed up there, and I just, because it cut out on my end. So repeat it one more time.
Christian Gratz official at Weebly.com, or slash Weebly.com. I think it's slash. I'm not sure.
All right. And you're streaming on Spotify and the usual places, right?
Yes.
All right. And if you want to order a physical copy of this, which I would highly recommend, because if you're cruising like I do, you're cruising in the SUV, you put this in, you roll the windows down, and people just look at you strangely and they go, huh, what's that? And they want to know. And then you can hold this up and show them, it's 1981. Yeah.
Do you ever get questions like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's what I do. All right. When I go out purposely, it's like when I wear certain shirts, I get, people are like, what's that all about? Typically they have slogans on them, like I was the original social distancer or something like that. But instead, I bring the bands out there and certain things. What's page 99? Why isn't it page 100? What's that dial? What is this about? And I say, hey, you got to check this music out. Maybe, hey, you probably need some shirts, Christian. You and your girlfriend there. You can put your faces on the shirts, and see. All right. Well, there you go.
We have a Frost Duo shirt. Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. And maybe that people can look you up in that area of the country and go see some really great music and have a very elegant and nice evening, maybe dress better than I am. And you can listen to some quality rock and jazz from Christian. And what's her name? Lee Beth? I messed it up.
Leah Beth.
Leah Beth. All right.
She was named after those two songs, All Leah by Donnie Iris.
Get out.
Beth by, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story. That's a great story. I would tell that story all day long. That's great. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on again. This is the album, his latest album. You might want to follow this guy or just, get ready, because he's got more stuff hopefully coming out this fall. And we wish you the best, Christian, in the years to come. And just keep this thing going, brother, because we need more of that smooth sailing music.
David, thank you so much. This is such an invaluable thing for us, especially independent musicians. And I so appreciate this. You have no idea.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do. And I love your channel. And, this is guys like me who want to know details and everything. We go to your channel. I go to your channel and for all this stuff. So thank you.
All right, man. That is a cool compliment. I really appreciate that. And thanks again for being on here. And we'll make sure we get this interview up ASAP. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you real soon.